what do you need to do to prepare for a meeting that is a strategic-based meeting so that you can make and set goals for that meeting, achieve those goals for that meeting, and have a good understanding and made advancements from a strategic decision coming out of that meeting that will advance the organization for 3 to 6 months much more effectively than the tactical stuff that you have to do on a day-to-day basis. So you advance your meetings. So to have an effective meeting, there's 3 things you need to do. You need to understand what you want to get out of that meeting well ahead of time. So therefore you set the agenda. When you set that agenda, you need to make sure you set it so that it is effective for the time frame you have. Now, if you have 3 days of discussion and you have 50 topics, or really 2 days of discussion, but 50 topics, or 15 topics even, is that too much? Well, that depends on how quickly you can make decisions on each of those topics. But you have no idea how long it'll take to make a decision on each of those topics if you haven't spent the time ahead of time to think about those topics and understand what all the concerns are with those topics. You have to set an agenda that is reasonable to complete within the time frame, where you have the ability to do the research on those topics ahead of time, so that when you come into the meeting, and that's the second key, by the way, is research the topics and have all the elements available to make those decisions in. And then the third step is the actual execution of the meeting. When you come in and you execute that meeting, in the execution you've got your agenda points, which you've got your 3 topics that you're going to cover in your 2 days. And on those 3 topics you've already researched all the concerns coming in. And then you choose a person who presents on each of those topics, and that presenter presents, and you have somebody else who facilitates. And the facilitator gives the presenter X amount of time to present the ideas on the topic. You then open it up for discussion, and the discussion is framed so that each person gets some time to discuss, and there's the ability to air all the issues and concerns, and then you make recommendations for what the decision should be. You finally discuss those recommendations, and you come up with a decision in that time frame. Anything that comes up on topics that are outside of those recommendations or outside of the topic is put into a parking lot for discussion at another time, and it may be in that meeting as part of the agenda items, or it may be for another time. It may not be a discussion that's worth having today. So that's the third piece, is the execution of the meeting. Now the other thing is that after your time frame, of a allotted time frame, you have to say, okay, it's time, we now have to make a decision. Here are our 3 options. What decision does person A decide, person B, person C, person D, and person E? Make the decisions, and there you go. The ability to have these types of strategic meetings and to move your organization forward, well, it's not just an ability, it's a privilege, and it's something that needs to be taken seriously. If you've got an organization and you've got strategy setting to do, make sure that you don't go into those meetings saying, well, here's all the things we could talk about, and here's my agenda with all the things we could talk about on it. Because if you take that approach, then you're going to have a lot of discussion and achieve very little. You're going to give your people a lot of takeaways that will then get overrun by the day-to-day tasks, and you'll get very little accomplished. That being said, I'm going to recap real quick, and then I'm going to tell you to go and have a nice day and run an effective meeting. Agenda, well ahead of time, research the topics, go into the meeting, and within the execution of the meeting, discussion, time framed on the open discussion and presentation of the material, then open discussion, time framed as well, and finally a decision standpoint, which is also time framed so that you've got your boxes set up. These are the times in which we're going to complete it. This is the discussion we're going to have. We're going to cut it all off, and you get your decisions to come out of there so you can set your strategic direction for your company and make it move forward. Good luck with your meetings. We'll talk to you next time.